Children of single parents. Who was the worst person your parent has dated? We'll call him Jose. Younger than my mom. Chronically unemployed. A drinker. Violent. And literally illiterate. But good looking. So my mom was smitten. My mom was from a good, in name, family. She had education. She had 2 little daughters. And she brought this scumbag to our peaceful little apartment and he settled in right away, beating the shit out of all of us, impregnating my mom 4 times, running off for months, coming back, never paying child support. When he was around, he mercilessly beat on us, and my mom just stood by like a fucking twat, not intervening. One morning my little brother, who was maybe 2, woke up and was hooping up and down in his crib for attention. Jose, a grown man, smacked that poor baby so hard in the face that the baby flew across the crib and hit the other side and slid down. Finally, my mom got diagnosed with lupus and Jose found out and literally abandoned her at the pharmacy. Years later, we find out that he had been sexually abusing my older sister. I'm still so mad at my mom for the decade of bullshit we endured with that man. He was literally a cancer, and she couldn't summon the self-esteem to leave him, even when he was beating us with extension cords. There's a poem by Naira Wahid called Before You Get That Key Made that should be handed to every single mother. Fuck your loneliness. Protect your kids. 1. I'm so sorry you endured this. 2. Wanted to high-five you though the scream about the last sentence of yours. Fuck your loneliness. Protect your kids. This isn't talked about enough because so many people endure horrible things when dating and having children. I'm very cynical about parenthood after the shit I've experienced and heard about. People say the stuff they're supposed to say, my kids are my world. I'd do anything for my kids. But what some, not all, won't say is that their kids do not fulfill their emotional and sexual needs. Their partner does, and some, not all, parents will choose that partner over their kid every time. But what some, not all, won't say is that their kids do not fulfill their emotional and sexual needs. It would be real awkward if they said otherwise. My dad started dating a woman who firmly believed that I was part of his old life and that he needed to cut ties with me. I was 14 and became terrified my mum would find someone who would do the same and I'd end up with no family. OMG same, but I actually got kicked out of for it because she was jealous of me being a woman, 20, while she had clearly thought I'd be 5 like her children. Actually my mom also dated a bad one. He was in his 50s and he hit on me for months, tried multiple times to break me and my boyfriend of 6 years up, and when I was forced to spend Christmas with my family at his house he drugged my wine and tried to convince my mom to let me stay the night because I was sick. Jesus Christ, that's terrifying. I hope your mom left him soon after. No, she doesn't believe shit, and I got told that if I didn't warm up to him then she'd cut me out of her life, which obviously I was totally fine with anyway. I moved out a few days after that, which was a year ago, but she still claims she's so in love with him, and he told her to also get rid of her dog which she had for years and she did. She that kind of women where who she is interested in, they can do no wrong. Jesus Christ, I'm so glad to hear you got out of there. Sorry about your mom though. /edit. This made me realize that if my mom had to choose between me and the dog she'd probably choose the dog, lol. That's fucked up. I found that 2 out of 3 of the men my mom has dated has made me uncomfortable with their comments when I get dressed up to go out. It's not even a passing comment like oh you look pretty, they go overboard and then it just comes off as creepy. I don't feel like it's appropriate at all, especially not if me and these men aren't on good terms in the first place because my mom dates absolute trash, so she doesn't have to be alone. Is she still with your dad? Did your dad ever apologize? No, he's very abusive, so I cut all ties with him. But he had someone follow me and my mom around for a while after their divorce. I hope that isn't happening anymore, but I plan on moving to a different country anyway. His girlfriend did find out where I worked a couple months ago and fabricated this huge lie to my boss to get me fired. It did not work, but I don't know if it has anything to do with my dad. I just know they are both really bad people. Oh hey, so did my dad, but he actually married her. I stopped talking to him when I was 16. So I'm coming up on 10 years without talking to him now. I'm pretty sure he doesn't even know I'm about to have his first grandchild, although I'm not sure if he cares, since his wife is having his replacement children for him. They have an almost 4-year-old, and I think she either just had another baby or is about to. So he just does not care that you no longer talk to him? Well, he's a diagnosed sociopath, so think he just cares for the drama aspect. He loves attention, and the poor me, my ex-wife, poisoned my kids against me routine gets him a lot of points, but TBH he never really tried to be a daily parent, and when my parents divorced my mom wasn't there to be the liaison for him anymore. When I was 16 and demanding regularity, it became the straw that broke the camel's back. He was engaged to a woman that believed we were his past and that's where we should stay, and he didn't correct her. My last words to him were, let me know when you decide to make me and sibling a priority in your life. Until then, I'm dropping the robe. I'm done. And he's never reached out. I think it's just more convenient for him. Holy shit, if anyone ever tried to make me cut ties with my daughter, they'd be out on their ass in a heartbeat. As a dad, I'm so sorry you had to go through that. My dad used to date such a woman when I was 4 years old. However, my dad wanted none of it. In fact, he pretty much wanted to be our legal guardian instead of my mom. The woman he dated after her was the exact opposite. She treated me and my brother as if we were her own sons. Heck, she was buying us Christmas/birthday present and would occasionally invite us to the restaurant or do activities when our dad was unavailable, and that's even after she got a daughter with my dad herself. She didn't have children until my stepsister was born. Wouldn't she be your half-sister? That would be correct. Please forgive me, for English isn't my first language. My mom dated a dude who beat the living shit out of me. Dude and his brother took turns punching me in the face while the other held me down. I was about 11 at the time. My mom didn't bother to remove these turds from her life either. I'm now in my 40s and still have scars on my face to remind me about it. A few months later, while I was at a summer camp paid for by a charity organization, the same dude put her in the hospital. A few weeks after that, I went to live with my aunt and uncle. She stayed with a dude. I haven't spoken to her in close to 20 years. So very sorry you experienced that. Me too. Sorry you went through that. I'm a mother and would hurt anyone who hurt my children. That woman who gave birth to you is not considered a mother. This kind of thing terrifies me. I can't imagine myself staying with someone who beats my child. I'm just coming out of a toxic relationship and stayed too long there. It scares the ever-living shit out of me that I would choose a man over my own child. It's disgusting that someone would choose anyone before their children. My kids come before my husband, and he knows it, and it doesn't bother him. My kids are my life, and I still sit here confused wondering what these women are thinking. My mother put her boyfriends before us, her children. She would leave me with any stranger as long as she got to go out with her boyfriend. It's a miracle nothing too traumatizing happened to me. I was the youngest and followed her everywhere because I thought she loved me. Come to find out she used me as a scapegoat. So my grandma thought she wasn't out doing unmotherly things. If she only knew. My siblings were much smarter than me, and now I realize how terrible of a mother she really was. I think about it pretty often and think of all the crappy situations she put me in at such a young age, which made me mature at a very young age. I would never ever put my children through any of that. The only thing I thank her for is teaching me what not to do as a mother. I'm so sorry you went through that. You're making a healthy choice by staying away. Well, as far as my mom's concerned, my dad is a clear winner. Bastard thought feeding a baby Coke and beer till she passed out was parenting. Then he thought that beating the fuck out of anyone who questioned him and locking his daughter in the crawl space till she stopped crying was healthy parenting. Managed to cut him out of my life at 16. At 19 he tried to shoot the cops that came to answer the domestic violence call. He missed, but the cops firing back riddled his 86-year-old neighbor with bullets. He's up for parole in 4 years. None of his girlfriends liked me, so they didn't give a shit. Some of them enjoyed it. Mom's not perfect either, but I'm gonna take emotional neglect over Biden's nonsense any day. So it was obvious that some of his girlfriends were enjoying your torture? What did they do that made it so obvious? Did the 86-year-old neighbor die? So he dated a bunch of bitches. Some girlfriends would leave the room when he started hitting me or drugging me up. Some joined in on hitting me or encouraged him to give me alcohol or drugs. The 86-year-old was shot 3 times by police. As far as I know, she was dead before she hit the ground. Her murder charge is what he's actually in jail for. And he dated the kind of people who would put up with a guy like him. You sure the police weren't stormtroopers? I don't know if you have ever been to Philadelphia, but let me tell you, there's definitely an evil empire running the place. In general, cops are borderline incompetent with firearms. They don't train enough, and often their guns have modifications or specifications that actually hinder good shooting, such as very heavy trigger pulls. It seems counterintuitive, but yeah, many cops just suck at shooting a pistol. Shooting a pistol accurately is difficult, especially once you start getting past 10 feet or so, and going to the range twice a year just isn't nearly enough to be proficient at it. The 86-year-old was shot 3 times by police. As far as I know, she was dead before she hit the ground. Her murder charge is what he's actually in jail for. The police missed 3 times. I don't mind that he's in jail for that, but Jesus, these police sound pretty shitty too. Most cops are terrible shots. They never practice and only shoot to qualify as necessary, and their qualifications tests are a joke that any regular shooter could pass at 100% with numerous handicaps. Meanwhile, cops can retake the tests until they just get lucky enough to pass without penalty. My dad's ex-fiancée. She was almost our evil stepmother until one day she decided to call me a fat lazy bitch, and my dad realized how awful she was to my sister and I. That was the day I learned how much he actually cared for us as well. He dumped her ass and kicked her out of the house. Her awful daughter left too, and it was finally peaceful at my dad's again. He dated her on and off 4 years afterwards until she went back with her ex-husband. My dad has sworn her off for good now, which I'm glad for, since she was a toxic person. I wish he could find someone worth his time though. I know he gets lonely. Why did he keep dating her after that? He didn't notice abusive behavior before that. Was he pissed if when she went back to her ex-husband? Humans are fucked up, and sometimes even perfectly good ones will end up choosing assholes over and over again. Usually when I talk to people who fall into this pattern of behavior, it's because when they first met that asshole was actually sweet, kind, charismatic, smart, etc. Eventually the asshole shows their true colors, but the other person is still under their thrall and clinging to the hope that things will go back to the way they were during that magical honeymoon period, that their asshole partner will eventually turn back into the person they fell in love with. I can think of 2. First of all, my biological father. They got back together for a few weeks. He was a dick. I'd recently got my first pet, a ginger kitten, but I was having previously unknown allergy issues with it. Things were stabilizing for me though, and I was getting used to it when one day my new cat disappeared. My dad admitted he let it out the door because he knew I'd been struggling. I spent weeks searching, but never found it. The second was my stepdad. He was actually a really good guy and head over heels in love with my mom. I actually miss him a lot. The reason he was one of the worst? Well, my mom died when I was 17, and overnight my stepdad changed. Within a month he was in a relationship with another family member, and suddenly he was violent and abusive. Left me with no food or money, attacked me for accidentally breaking an ornament of his, and ultimately forced me to run away from home. I was on couch hopping for 9 months and never spoke to him again. How are you doing now? I suffer crippling depression and anxiety, so I wouldn't say I'm a well-adjusted individual, but I'm getting by. So your stepdad was just nice to you because he loved your mom so much, and then he did not need you anymore? I hope you find someone better than that for you. Sounds more like a mental break brought on by extreme trauma. Potentially. I try to kid myself that he died the same time my mother did. He was such a good guy, but he did so many horrible things when she died. Another thing he did that might prove your suggestion: she passed away from a brain aneurysm, but he claimed he caused it through sex. That's not something you'd logically say to a grieving son. People are rarely logical when grieving themselves. Dude sounds broken. You've reached the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. For more content, please subscribe.